This last video is going to give you an example of what to do when you're given a whole number and a fraction in your parentheses and you are asked to subtract. So I went ahead and set up the problem here. I took the whole number of 5 and put it over 1, so that way I have a fraction minus a fraction to work with. Now, if you remember back to the slide that talked about adding these two numbers together, you might remember the rule that said that in order to add the numbers together, they had to have a common denominator. The rule is the same for when you're subtracting fractions. So these fractions, if these numbers on the bottom or in the denominator are not the same, you cannot subtract anything. You have got to make those the same. So if you do go back to the slide where we were adding, you might remember that we listed the multiples of each denominator. We said the multiples of 1 were 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and the multiples of 2 were 2, 4, 6, and 8. And the number that they had in common was 2. Now 1/2, it already has a 2 in the denominator, so we're not going to change that. We're going to leave that alone. But we are going to change this fraction so that the denominator is 2. Now, in order to do that, I need to multiply this denominator by a number that would equal 2. So I know with my multiplication facts that if I multiply 1 times 2, that's going to give me the number 2. Whatever I do to the bottom in this fraction, I also have to do to the top. So I'm going to go up here and also multiply by 2. So now I'm going to rewrite this fraction. 5 times 2 is 10. 1 times 2 is 2. Now I have a whole new equation where I have common denominators. That's exactly what I wanted. So now the rule is you're going to keep that denominator in your answer. It stays the same. And you're only subtracting your numerators. So now I'm going to subtract 10 minus 1, and that is going to give me 9. So here is my final answer, and again, improper fractions. We don't really like those in math, but we're just going to deal with it for now. So it says on our slide that the first thing we need to do is write this answer in decimal form. So in your calculator, you could go ahead and divide 9 divided by 2 equals, and my answer is 4.5. There is my decimal form of that answer. Now I need to write it as a fraction. Again, this is a fraction, but it is improper, so we need to write the mixed number so that it is a proper fraction. And I see here in my decimal that the whole number is 4, so I can put that out in front. And I also remember from my previous slides and talking about the decimal of 0.5 is actually the same as 1/2. So my fraction form of 9/2 or 4.5 is 4 1/2. Now I need to write my answer in percentage. So I'm going to look up here at my decimal, move it 2 spaces to the right, fill in a 0, and rewrite that number, and I get 450%. The last thing I need to do is write it in words. So again, I'm going to go to my fraction form and write that out in words. 4 and 1/2. So that is it. Those are all the ways that you can add, subtract, multiply, divide when you're given a whole number and a fraction, or a whole number and a whole number. Remember, these numbers are not what are on your homework slides. You are just using these videos as a reference to show you how to set up the problems and then solve them.